This is Tools for Nomads. Tools for Nomads is an up-close and insightful look into the lives and habits of passionate and creatively prolific people who embrace and cherish the nomadic lifestyle. Brought to you by Topdrawer. As creative professionals, we know the nomadic lifestyle is as much a mindset as it is a way of being. Visit topdrawershop.com or visit one of their dozen-plus meticulously outfitted shops in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Berkeley, Chicago, and Tokyo. topdrawershop.com. I'm Tom Pollard. I've traveled the world in search of adventure. Since 2001, I've been a member of the Explorers Club. I'm a filmmaker, mountaineer, even a sailor. I've been to the top of Everest and helped build and sailed a ship made of 2.5 million reeds from Chile to Easter Island. I almost got eaten by a mako shark. I've filmed with orcas, elk, bear. From five-star hotels to the cold, cold ground, I've visited a lot of cool places over the years, but there's a whole lot of places on the globe I've yet to experience. Today's guest, adventurer and photographer Oscar Manguy of Finland, epitomizes the philosophy of fast and light. He's as comfortable sleeping in a hammock under a tarp as he is in a king-sized bed. In fact, probably more so. He's been running expeditions into the wilderness from the Arctic to Baja since he was 16 years old and lives with his wife in eastern Finland in a cabin on a lake, off the grid, no electricity or running water, compost toilets, their drinking water comes from springs or from the lake. As a professional wildlife and wilderness photographer and cameraman, his Cadillac is his kayak. A casual gander at Oscar's Instagram will reveal photos of terrifyingly massive bears fighting, a transcendent moonrise over serene waters, towering glaciers, adorable penguin chicks, smiling faces, lots of smiling faces, and kayaks, and mesmerizing images of figures standing before the aurora borealis. I wondered how a professional photographer can capture such perfection when working out of a skinny kayak. Well, he did say he's fast and light. Here's my conversation with Oscar Manguy from his cabin on a lake, and you might wonder how he gets a telephone or Wi-Fi signal out there to do this interview. The entire country of Finland has 4G. It's everywhere, even out in the wilderness. Oscar, despite all the comforts of being able to do an Instagram post from a remote island in the middle of nowhere, knows how to get things done under the most austere of conditions. You'll want to take note about how he lightens the load, especially his toothpaste trick for long journeys. Here's my conversation with Oscar Manguy. You know, before we met, and I was looking at your Instagram profile, which I have up on the screen kind of through our little video portal here, I remember being just fascinated with your lifestyle and how you were living. And at the time, I was living in a cabin, albeit though, right, 2 miles, a mile and a half drive to the post office and a coffee shop and everything. And You live in a cabin, but you're a 2 mile. What would you say is within a 2 mile radius of where you live?
My in-laws. Yes, my in-laws. The closest
Your in-laws, right?
Yes, my in-laws. Yes, my closest neighbors are my in-laws. To go to the grocery store is maybe about 10 miles, 12 miles, about. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited just to kind of have you tell me a little bit about your life. And if someone had never heard your name before and knew nothing about you, and you had a couple of paragraphs to say, "Hi, I'm Oscar, and let me tell you about where I live and what I do," like, what? Lay it on me.
I have been running expeditions professionally since 2000. since like late 99. And then my life pretty much has been like moving and living in remote locations since my early 20s. And yes, so in some ways, living here in the cabin that is remote feels quite comfortable, especially when you normally are always in a tent or in a hammock, sleeping in the same sleeping bag for 60 days. So, so then this feels good. Yes, I have been probably, especially people from the United States. I work for an organization, nonprofit NOLS, the National Outdoor Leadership School, and then my wife also works for them. And at the moment, during this pandemic, my wife started working here in Finland at the Outdoor Academy, which is like the main guiding school for the Nordics, for people either to climb, to go to mountaineering, or to go to sea kayaking programs. And during the pandemic, I also started my own company, 360 North, that we create adventure media. Mm-hmm.
Amazing, amazing, Oscar. So, tell me a little bit about these expeditions and what are you teaching people? Is it photography based, purely adventure, and where do you go? I'm in my mind, I have an image of a of a gigantic bear with the sun setting kind of on the opposite side. The bear is slightly silhouetted. So I drool when I see stuff like that. So, if I were going to go on one of your expeditions, what might I be able to expect?
Yes, so then I started expeditions. When I started getting into photography, it was when I was 19 years old, and I did my first photography expedition that was about 461 days long. And we like documented the full coast of Baja. So everybody that is familiar with that, we did all the Sea of Cortez and then the Pacific side, but we did a walking. And so then that connected me to Knowles, because we walk straight in front of their Knowles base. And then pretty much I got a job offer right there. It's like, hey, Oscar, if you're doing this, you're like great. You're gonna be a great instructor. Come and join us. And then I did that after a year, finishing the expedition, and then I started like leading these expeditions that go between 2 weeks to like 3 months long. So then, what to expect? There's a few things that you can expect on an expedition. Like, you can make an expedition as easy or as hard as you want, no? So then it's like Carlos Castañeda says, like, I think the amount is the same, but you're the one that decides how you want to do it. So then, because everything is about perspective, there's nothing that is easy in this world. Everything is hard. There's nothing. Like I always tell my participants, it's like we are probably one of the only animals in this planet that we get sleeping injuries just from sleeping. You like wake up and you're like, you cannot move you cannot move your neck. So then it's like even sleeping is hard. So there is nothing that is easy. And so then when we go into the expedition, where we go with minimum things, it's like we need to get creative, we need to innovate, we need to stay positive, we need to have fun, we need to learn, we need to observe the weather. And one of the best ways to observe what is out there is with your camera, no? Because then once you grab the camera and you're trying to document, you're trying to capture the moment, then there's something that opens up. And then you're sharper at seeing, you can start seeing different colors, different patterns, animals moving. And in some ways you become this, I don't know, you become like your sense of curiosity gets sharper, and then you become this person that is like almost like a nature journalist, not like out in there. So something that you can expect is some excitement, long days, and working hard but laughing hard, and being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Right. So, in eastern Finland, on this lake where you live, are is there wildlife like the photographs of the bear and is this would you maybe see one walk by your cabin, or do you need to go a distance to see that?
There's a lot of wildlife in here. Like we have right in the property behind me, there's about right now there's about three moose. Like that you can hear them walking around, but then the animals here they have learned how to be very still and disguise themselves very good. Like I have been almost like in a steering contest with a moose for almost like 20 minutes, just nobody moving, just like looking at each other, and you can see like the moose just like slightly moving the ears, trying to figure out like what exactly I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yes, and because then people have been living in this place for many years, like 3,000 years. So then animals and people, they have this relationship, which in our side, especially us, we have in our countries been for I don't know 500 years, in theory. Like native people have been there for longer, but then as our culture, we have been in pretty much on the newer side, and we have more animals in some ways, like more wild, especially in the United States and Alaska and Canada and Mexico. There's a lot of wildlife, very easy to see. But here you can see them. You just need to be very sharp. You can see wolverine. There we had also a brown bear here in by the road, maybe like I want to say 300 yards away from here, about maybe a month and a half ago.
Oscar, so tell me about Finland and what is the light there? So do you have, I know you're much farther north on the globe, and so we're in the middle of August now, so I'd imagine your days are fairly long, but do they shorten considerably during fall and winter?
Yes, they're getting shorter and shorter, and I think maybe for if people picture Alaska and if you see like Anchorage, uh, I'm almost at the same latitude that Denali.
Amazing. So work wise now you have to be really resourceful to get your work done, and so you're in a small room now that you call the shed or something that you turn into your workspace. Is that where you do your work? Because you come home with hundreds if not thousands of photographs to edit, and so how does that work? Are you fully relying on battery power and Wi-Fi? Just get, what is it that you do to get work done? I just can't even imagine it.
Okay, well, that's what the digital era right now is fantastic, no? With the digital era, you can process things so good, so fast. You need to pay attention, especially if you're making video. You need to pay attention to like frame rates and codecs and all these things. But then, like the process of making media now is so good in comparison to just like even 15 years ago. Like 15 years ago, we had to still like either we were using DVDs or mini DVDs or even like the micro tapes and like just to trying to do edits at those times was a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And or if you still have film, because I think my last film camera that I had was even in 2004, 2003, because that's when everything started moving into digital. And then just to process all the rolls and trying to keep all the rolls safe and moisture free, that was like a very, very, in some ways, it will take more time. But now with a computer, with a phone, card reader, with the cloud, and these amazing edited programs that you can have, is you can work from anywhere.
Yeah. So you had said that there is basically, is it 5G everywhere in Finland? Is it
4G.
4G?
4G, and certain cities have 5G. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So even when you're out in the field, or is there signals reaching you?
Yes, most of the times.
How did that happen? Did the government facilitate that?
It's subsidized, yes, subsidized, and then is the yeah. So the communication here is fantastic. Maybe some places you don't get 4G, but then you still get cell phone signal, like traditional cell phone signal. But it's just within small patches. Most of the place is very well connected. The same thing with Sweden and Norway. So you can be in beautiful locations and you can get your work done.
It's just fascinating to me to think that, because sometimes I drive, 10 miles, like literally 3 miles north of me. There's no signal, nothing. It's dead. You drive through this wall of mountains, and it's pretty understandable. The mountains are big comparatively speaking to where the road is, but you go 20 to 25 minutes with nothing, literally dead. Like, so if you've got a flat tire in the middle of the night, you walk home. Right? But so that explains a little bit how you get work done at home and in the field. But when you are in the field, I would imagine, especially working out of a kayak, what things do you have to go through to protect all your equipment? Because you've got, I see in the video behind you, you've got this beautiful camera and a massive lens. So is half the weight of your kayak like things to, boxes and cases that are watertight? And
Well, I try to go in the same way, or I try to go fast and light. Well, if I'm doing a commercial production, I try to have everything in one backpack. Like one backpack with like a couple of lenses, 2 cameras, drone, good condensers, like everything. So because the idea is to move fast and light. So then we can, because once you start adding all these boxes, then you can go to just one place, and then it's hard. So then I use the same principles of backpacking. I use the same thing. So it's like, like if you have like less gear, you can advance more. So then I always, especially with my camera gear, like digital cameras, now they came down to this big.
yeah.
And so lightweight and so good. And then this camera also is like a pound each. And with this kind of camera with this is like a 28 lens, and this is a full camera, and it's weather seal. So then I can pretty much have it right here on my jacket, right here on my chest. I put the camera right here on the chest. So then I always have it ready and I can just pull it out. And then all these cameras, especially like the Sony cameras, they have image stabilization inside. So then if you're like doing just like handheld with some technique, you can get very good shots that before you could not get. Before I will take like I remember when I took my first like DSLR to Patagonia, it was so wet that all my lenses were completely like full of humidity, like all foggy. And I was like, okay, that's day one, and I still have 60 days. I'm not gonna take any photos. Everything is ruined.
We're talking with Oscar Manguy, wilderness photographer and guide, about his life in Finland and how he stays productive and creative even while living off the grid with his wife in a cabin on a remote island. So when you tell me a little bit about when you pack and get ready for an expedition, I would imagine you have to be, what you already said that for camera gear, you like to have everything fit in a backpack. So that takes a fair amount of creativity and trial and error, I would imagine. You know how to completely overdo it or underdo it. But what about the other stuff? Like what goes in your bag in essence? Because I can't. There's not that much room in the the nose of a kayak. So are there things that you have to have with you? Is it whether it I mean, obviously I don't know what goes with you and what helps you do your work too on in the field so you're comfortable.
Yeah, so then I think it depends where I'm gonna go, how many people I go to, but I try to keep everything quite minimalistic. Uh, I try to have, depending the length of the expedition, but I like to, my clothes is pretty much like one change of clothes for the entire trip. No, maybe like some like underpants and more socks, but then everything else is the same. We always laugh that when I go back home and people ask me like, wait, how long did you say that was your expedition? And I was like 50 days. And it's like, well, but in all your photos, you have the same clothes every day. It looks like it was one day long.
Yeah, but your clothes must be trashed when you get home, though.
I always tell people, if whatever you're gonna use or whatever you're gonna bring has not two uses, then don't bring it. Yeah, so then it's like, you cannot, if you have a spoon and a fork, just choose one. That's what you're gonna take. Just a spoon. Then if you're, like, like all these other things, like people sometimes they want to bring to the expedition the book that they always wanted to read and happen, that is Hamilton, or like this like massive book, because they think that they're gonna have the time to read. And I was like, well, if you did not have time at home to read, you're not gonna have time now, because then people don't realize that everything takes time too, or more, just to boil water, to go to the bathroom, to set up the tent, that takes more time. So then people bring a lot of weight, especially in toiletries, um deodorant, like the largest toothpaste that you can imagine. And so then once you start
Toothpaste
like,
is overrated, man. You can just get by with water, right? So,
what we do with toothpaste depends the conditions, the place, but I like to dry it. So what you do is you put it in a tin foil, you put drops of toothpaste for every day that you're gonna be out in there, and then you sprinkle baking soda on top of them, and then you just either put it on the freezer or put it on top of your fridge, and then they're gonna dry, and then you have these tiny little pills of toothpaste. Um, and then you cut of course that you're going to cut your toothbrush in half, because you don't need the other half. Yeah. So then you just have like half a toothbrush, and then you have these little pills that they always live in your pocket of your jacket, in your inner jacket. You always have them there. You always have the toothpaste there. So you don't need to have another special bag that is inside your backpack, that is inside another bag. No. So you use your layers in your backpack as of one single package.
amazing.
So then you don't need all this extra stuff. And
Amazing.
then
Yeah.
yeah, because then that extra weight you can bring food instead. Because then also, like, sometimes like people when go out, they just eat tuna and oatmeal, and I'm like, wait, there's so many other things to eat over there. So then it's like, let's bring more food, and then the weight on your food every day is gonna be lower. So then at some point, like, depends how heavy you are on food. It's like maybe the first 3 days you go a little slow, but then the next days you can move faster.
Right on. Yeah, you're the food you eat. Yeah, by the end of the expedition, your boat is floating right on the tippity top of the water, and you've got almost nothing left. It's perfect.
But I think it's important to think a little bit minimalistic, because right now, like, if you go to any of those commercial outdoor stores, they want to sell you the little carabiner to hold the carabiner that holds into the carabiner, and a bag specific for that carabiner. And you're like, wait, no, you only need one carabiner. That's it.
What about in terms of notes and reading, or what are your little ways of staying inspired and creative and productive that are just kind of more for your soul than in terms of like the technical aspects of getting your work done?
If I have a book that I'm reading, like a paper book, I don't have one in here, but then I know how much I'm going to read, and I cut the book. I cut the book and I send to me the other half, or something. And then at the end, when you have them, all the pieces that you cut, you put them together, you duct tape them, and then you put the title on top again, and you put it on your bookshelf. Everybody's gonna ask you about that book. It's like, what book is that one? And then you have
Yeah.
a good story to tell right in there.
Amazing. So I have it's funny. I'm so happy you told that story because I have a friend who does that on our mountain climbing trips. I used to guide with him, and I remember going to Denali with him once. This is back in the '90s, we were in the hotel room before we actually flew onto the glacier, and he's ripping this paperback book into 5 or 6 pieces. I'm like, I just looked at him and I go, I don't even want to know. And then sure as hell, we'd be up at high camp and he'd reach into his backpack, pull out like a 30-page segment of his book. And I was like, brilliant. Brilliant.
But now with the Kindles are awesome.
Yeah. And they keep their charge forever. So, and the Kindles, you can they get the tiny ones too.
Especially the old ones, they're awesome. You can buy them use one for super cheap, and you can put, like, I don't even know how many books, 3,000 books. I don't know, so many. Yes, and it's very easy. They actually last super well in minus environments. Like if you have it in your pocket, you can be at like minus 20 Celsius and it's fine.
Amazing.
It's good.
Hey, Oscar, so do you have any cool projects coming up or any commercial shoots that you're doing of note? Are you gearing up for a big expedition trip right now?
I have 2 coming up. So then next week, we're actually going back to the Arctic, and we are mapping. There is a municipality up north that they do a lot of canoeing, whitewater rafting. It's like a small village with like maybe about 2,000 people. And we are gonna go and work with Mikael and Alexei, which both of them are these expert canoers from this village. And we're gonna map the river system and the lake systems. So today we had a meeting about that. So we're gonna take the drones and take like photos and video from kayaks, canoes, and rafts, and that's what is coming up for the next week. That's what we're doing, producing that. Amazing. And yes, it's good, it's fun, and we're gonna go to these like very cool sacred places. Like there's one place that you will love. It's called Pacasaibo. Is amazing. Is this canyon that is almost perfectly round, but you're seeing it from the top, and it's this beautiful circular dark water that goes maybe the walls of the canyon are maybe, I want to say, like 30 to 50 yards up. So you're on the top. So then for the Sami people, the native people from up north, they say that that's the way that you go into the underworld. Is fantastic. It's beautiful. There is something special. So we're gonna go in those vicinities, and it's just quite special. Very good. And then in October I have an expedition in Baja. We have a sea kayaking expedition. Maybe from people that have been in Baja, is we're gonna paddle from like the Midriff Islands or like LA Bay in the Sea of Cortez all the way down towards Mulegé, close to like going through these like volcanoes and good places, beautiful places.
I love the idea of kind of intermingling, and it sounds like you do this at home as well with a culture that has been there well before us. You know, you said where you live now, people have been living there for 3,000 years, and where you're going up into the Arctic. So these people probably teach you so much of the earth. Amazing. So hammocks and a good Sony camera with a 28 millimeter lens and a kayak, and you're good to go.
Good to go. Yes, and if I shave, if I dry the toothpaste, then I take my 2470.
So you could take a bigger lens, right? So that's it. It's all a balance. Like, you don't want the scale to tip too far in one way. You're amazing, man. I'm so happy that I had the chance to talk to you. I love seeing your Instagram and your work. It's fascinating, and I always love to get a message from you and to send you messages. And I love when I see that you've clicked a heart or a like on anything that I've posted. It's a sign that I done good when Oscar gives it the thumbs up. So
same here. I appreciate your time and your interviews, and also your kind words and everything that you're doing to promote outdoors equality, and just in some ways just bringing the outdoors to people through these channels. I think it's fantastic what you are also doing.
Have a blessed day, and best of luck on your expedition to this river in the Arctic. I can't wait to see the beautiful pictures and video that you bring home from that.
Yeah, you will be the first one to know. I will tag you for sure.
I cannot wait. Oscar recently started his own company called 360 North, where he produces visual content for online advertising. You can find him at oscarmanguy.com, that's spelled man guy, and his Instagram account at oscar.manguy. Thanks for visiting Tools for Nomads, an up-close and insightful look into the lives and habits of passionate and creatively prolific people like Oscar Manguy. Tools for Nomads is brought to you by Topdrawer. At Topdrawer, nomadism isn't simply about being on the move, it's about loving and living life where the things we carry directly impact our productivity, our well-being, and even our identity. Topdrawer combines the quality and craftsmanship of our grandparents' generation with the drive for independence, function, and stylish sustainability. It all results in a collection of tools curated from around the world that help you do your best work wherever you are. Visit topdrawershop.com or visit one of their dozen-plus meticulously outfitted shops in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Berkeley, Chicago, and Tokyo. Topdrawershop.com. Thanks for visiting. I'm Tom Pollard. I'll see you next time on Tools for Nomads.